Welcome back to the Thrifty Food Plan channel, friends. I am so glad you are here. Please do hit that like button and subscribe. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be focused on building out my emergency food pantry. And I made a video about this earlier in the week. And I am following sort of 7 tips and guiding principles as I build out my emergency food pantry. I'm going to build around an actual meal plan, only buy stuff I like, focus on fruits and veg. I'm going to make sure that the food pantry for emergencies includes enough food that I am getting enough calories. I'm going to plan for some variation in flavor. I'm going to try to minimize cooking time in case the power and the gas are both out. And then, as always, this is the Thrifty Food Plan channel. I'm going to keep affordability in mind. So, with all of those things said, let's get to the haul. All right, this is my emergency food pantry haul. And almost everything here came from the Walmart, and we'll talk about why in a minute. There are a couple of items from other places, and I will note that where I note that. So, for fruits, I have 7 cans of peaches. I have 7 cans of pineapple. And then sort of transitioning from fruit to veg, I have 2 cans of Italian-styled diced tomatoes and 2 small cans of tomato sauce. I have 2 cans of like unflavored petite diced tomatoes and 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chili. So multiple sort of flavor profiles there. And there's a YouTuber, I think Southern Food Mama, can't remember, who really kind of turned me on to this buy tomatoes that already have seasonings in them. So shout out to her. Okay, and then for veg, I have 7 cans of collard greens. Now, not everybody might like collard greens, but I love collard greens, so I got me some collard greens. I also got 4 cans of whole potatoes and then 1 can of diced potatoes. I have 5 cans of green beans, 2 cans of corn, and 1 can of sliced carrots. So that is all of the veg that I picked up. And then in dairy, going pretty light on dairy, but I did pick up this. I actually got at the Dollar Tree. It's an unsweetened oat milk. And then I picked up a can of full-fat coconut milk. Then in grains, I picked up a big tub of oatmeal, some whole wheat pasta, some instant rice, and some saltines. Now these are not, they don't have high nutrient value, but they do bring some calories, so I'm glad to have them. And then in proteins, lots of canned beans. 2 cans of black beans. I actually should have gotten 4 cans of butter beans. So I'm pretty sure I ordered 4. I need 2 more. So just note that I need 2 more cans of butter beans. 2 cans of Great Northern beans, 2 cans of chili beans with seasonings already in there. And then I got 6 cans of lentils because lentils are pretty diverse in terms of what you can make with them. And if I didn't say it, I did get some peanut butter. They were out of the Walmart brand, so the Jif is what I got. And then in the miscellaneous category, I have 1 brick of chocolate, 1 brick of coffee, which I did order from Amazon, $3.49, cheaper than anything they had at the Walmart. I picked up 2 seasoning mixes just in case I didn't have anything in the pantry. And then it might be an emergency, but I still very, very, very much want my dark chocolate. So this is everything I bought for my emergency food pantry that is designed to feed me for 14 days. All right, so the first 2 sort of rules or guiding principles of this emergency food pantry haul is that I would I would build it around a meal plan and only buy things that I actually like to eat. And so in this meal plan, I'm going to be rotating a set of meals for lunch and dinner. So my first option for lunch and dinner are butter beans, collards, and potatoes. And I actually only needed 2 cans of butter beans because for me, a can of beans is 2 servings. So that butter beans, collards, and potatoes dinner is exactly what it sounds like. I'd have a half a can of butter beans, a can of collards, and a can of the whole potatoes. You can see that right here. And then that would make 4 meals, right? Get 4 meals out of that with what I bought. And then I would make pasta with lentil sauce, and that is using 8 cans of lentils, 2 cans of Italian tomatoes, 2 of the smaller cans of tomato sauce, and all of the pasta. And I bought the 2 smaller cans of tomato sauce so I can split that out. I can make it in 2 different batches for a total of 8 meals. So I would make it a batch of 4 meals and then a second batch of 4 meals. That's also why I bought the macaroni. It's easier to measure out the serving than it is like with spaghetti noodles. The next thing up, for a very different flavor profile, I want to make some lentil curry. And that would have 2 cans of lentils, a half a can of the carrots, a half a can of the coconut milk, 1 can of just regular diced tomatoes, and 4 servings of the instant rice. And that would make 4 meals. Next up is Italian soup. This is the one thing I'm not sure if I'll actually love it, but we will see should an emergency happen. And in the Italian soup, I would use 2 cans of green beans, the other half a can of carrots, 1 can of diced tomatoes, 2 cans of green beans, and then I would put 2 servings of the rice into the soup. And that would make 4 meals. Then I also will have chili. And for the chili, I will use the 2 cans of chili beans I bought, 1 can of tomatoes, 1 can of corn, and some of the chili seasoning, plus 2 servings of rice. Good way to thicken up some chili is just to add some rice to it. And then my final option will be taco soup. And for that, I would use 2 cans of black beans, 1 can of corn, the can of tomatoes that has green chilies in it. And I'd add 1 serving of rice because that's, I think, all that's left in the box at this point. And a little bit of the taco seasoning I bought, and that would also make 4 meals. Another way to look at the meal plan is this way. So every morning I'm going to have oats because that's a lot of oats that I bought. So I would have oats and peaches most days. And then I'd make that batch of chili, and I'd have chili for lunch. I'd have a butter bean dinner, again, with the collards and the whole potatoes, the canned whole potatoes. The next day I'd have chili again for lunch, but I'd mix it up and have pasta with lentil sauce for dinner. That would be the run of show for a couple of days. And then on day 5 for lunch, when I'm done with that chili, I'd have the butter bean chili, have the lentil with pasta sauce. The next day, I'm going to break up the flavor profile in a pretty big way and have the lentil chili for lunch, Italian soup for dinner. And because I've opened that can of coconut milk to make the lentil curry, I'm going to switch it up for a couple days for breakfast and have oats with pineapple instead of oats with peaches. Excuse me. And have a little coconut milk in there. But for a couple days, I'll have lentil curry for lunch and Italian soup for dinner. Down here, I forgot to point this out. So in addition to the half a can of fruit that I'll have for breakfast every morning, I'll also have a half a can of a different fruit for snack. And then on those days when I'm eating meals that don't have anything green in them, I will have an extra can of veg as part of my snack. And, that could either be a can of green beans or a can of collards because I bought some extras. So once the lentil curry and the Italian soup are done on day 10, I will mix up sort of the taco soup, and I will have a butter bean dinner. And then the next day I'll keep eating taco soup, but then I'll switch dinner out to my second batch of pasta with lentil sauce. And so it goes. On day 13, just to mix it up a little bit, I'm going to have a butter bean dinner for lunch and the pasta and lentil sauce. Final day is the last serving of taco soup and the last serving of pasta with lentil sauce. And other snacks that I will have available to me are saltines and peanut butter. I also can have another bowl of oats. And if I'm really hungry, that second half can of fruit, I could make oats with that. And then, of course, I will have my piece of chocolate each and every day. So this is the meal plan that I would use to feed myself for those 14 days. And again, I would just note all of these foods are foods that I like to eat. And so I would be happy kind of eating these things. I've never made the Italian soup before, so there's a chance that I wouldn't like it, but I like everything in it. So it's more likely than not that I would actually like that Italian soup. So this is the meal plan, rule number 1. And rule number 2 is that everything I bought is stuff that I actually like. So importantly, rule number 3 was that I would eat fruits and veg every day, including at least one green thing. So clearly I'm having fruit for breakfast, I'm having fruit for snack. And then on the days when I'm eating meals like the chili and the pasta with lentil sauce that don't have anything green in them, part of my snack is going to be an extra can of veg. And that could either be collards or green beans. Rule number 4 was that I was going to count the calories. So I have actually charted out here sort of the calories and the ingredients for each of the meals. One thing, and I wanted to make sure that every meal was about 400 calories. Okay. And in order to do that, I needed to add a side of saltines as part of the meal, 1 serving of saltines to the Italian soup, the chili, and the taco soup. So for each of those meals, I'm going to need to add a serving of saltines to go on the side. But when I add all of it up, each serving of my lunch and dinner meals is going to come out to about 400 calories. So my breakfast generally is going to have about 255 calories. And then for lunches and dinners, those are going to be about 400 calories each. So that's 800 calories a day. For snack, I can have saltines and peanut butter, which would come in at 250 calories. That half a can of extra fruit. If I would have peaches for breakfast most days, and then pineapple for snack. It's about 175 calories in a half a can, and a half a can of pineapple. So let's see sort of what my sum is looking like. So on most days, right, that's 1,480 calories. Now, some days I'm going to get a little bit more because I'm going to need to eat that can of extra veg because my meals that day don't have anything green in them. That would add another 100 calories. And then if I get really hungry, I can have a can of oats. Not a can of oats, another serving of oats, because that canister has 30 servings in it. So I've got plenty to have a little extra oats. And oats just plain with no fruit is 150 calories. So, and then I also have my piece of chocolate, which is like 30 calories, and I didn't put it in here. But just based on the base meal plan, every day I would get about 1,500 calories. Some days I'd get a little more with an extra can of veg. And then if I'm really hungry on a given day, I can have an extra serving of plain oats at 150 calories. So from a calorie count perspective, this is looking pretty good. Okay, the next rule was to make sure that there's some variation in flavor profile. And I would say that the two items here that where their flavor profiles might be most similar are with the chili and the taco soup. And that's why I have put them in different weeks. And I have broken them up with lentil curry, which, tastes really different than either one of those things. So breaking up the chili and the taco soup, whose flavor profiles might be most similar, really, really helps here. And, nothing on this menu tastes exactly the same, which is super, super exciting. The next rule or tip I was trying to follow was that I was trying to minimize my cooking time. And that's why you see a lot of canned beans here instead of dry beans. I understand that dry beans are cheaper, but if things are really hard and I'm trying to cook and the power's out and the gas is out and I'm cooking on my little grill that you can see kind of over here, right? It's just going to be super duper hard for me to make beans because they have to cook for hours. Dry beans do. So that's why I bought kind of beans in cans. I also bought a smaller type of pasta because that has less cooking time. And I bought instant rice instead of regular rice, particularly where I live at altitude. I mean, it can take 45, 50 minutes for rice to cook. So buying some instant rice also was a shortcut on cooking time. I recognize there are quick oats or instant oats, and I bought the big can of old-fashioned oats here. But I can put those in a ball jar and kind of do a little bit of an overnight oats to keep the cooking time down on that. And I don't like instant or quick cooking oats, so I bought the old-fashioned oats, going back to rule 2 about buying only what I actually like. So in terms of buying things that help keep cooking time low, these are a couple of the steps that I took to make sure that I was keeping that in mind. Our final tip and rule or guiding principle was around affordability. And if you all watch this channel, you know that every month I do kind of a budget report card. And in the last budget report card, it showed, that I underspent on groceries last month by more than $200. And I just want everybody to know that that is how I am paying for what you are seeing today, just so you know where that money is coming from to pay for this emergency pantry food haul. And when I thought about affordability here, of course, I'm going to go back to the USDA Thrifty plan, which is what I use on the regular for my budgeting. But I also, because I'm not able in this haul to do what I normally do, which is to shop loss leaders for produce and that sort of thing, because they're not shelf stable and will rot, right? I knew that I was going to have to buy a lot of canned goods, which do tend to be more expensive. I also wanted to take a look at another option. So let's talk about the two options to think about budgeting for an emergency 14-day, 2-week food supply. So the first way to do it is what I always do, which is using the USDA Thrifty Food Plan. And when I constructed my budget for this month, the most recently available Thrifty Food Plan was from December 2022. And after I did all the math and all of that, what it basically said was that my maximum allowable food spend in any given week would be $62.16. So for this emergency food haul, my budget would be $124.32 because it is covering 2 weeks of food. So that's one way to think about the budget. That said, I knew that I was not going to be able to use some of the tricks of the trade that I typically use to keep my costs low. And So I wasn't sure I'd be able to do it. So the other thing I thought about in terms of a budget option is if a couple of months ago I posted this video about like why are my grocery costs higher than what I see elsewhere on YouTube. And that's because our food expenses can really vary based on where we live. Um, and in that video, it sort of showed that the average cost per at meal home is $3.25 across the US. And so if I multiplied that by 3 meals a day, I obviously include snacks and my meal planning, but let's just go with the flow here. That'd be $9.75. And if I multiplied that per day cost by 14, that would mean the budget is $136.50. Now let's look at what I actually spent. So what I actually spent, I did shop at the Walmart, and we'll talk about why in a second. But the vast majority of items I bought at the Walmart, and that total came in at $69.48. I did buy some coffee at Amazon, so I need to add that in. And I did buy oat milk at the Dollar Tree, so I need to add that in. And then I need to subtract the tax out because that's not actually food I can eat, and that will come out of my household budget. But my grand total here, my grand total spend for this 2 weeks of food using all sort of more shelf stable items was $74.05. So either way I budget, the USDA method or the average cost method, I actually came in under budget, which surprised me, quite frankly, because I thought buying all of this canned stuff was going to be really, really expensive. But as you can see, I actually got 2 full weeks of emergency food for $74.05. Now let's talk about Walmart for just a second. I did end up doing the vast majority of this haul at Walmart. And if you watch this channel, you know that I am a bit of like a Kroger loyalist because I do find that shopping their loss leaders, sale items, in store, kind of the store only coupons, typically like I can get a really diverse set of food at really low cost if I shop that way at the Kroger. And I actually put everything I needed into shopping carts at online shopping carts at both Walmart and my local Kroger equivalent. And I was shocked. So at Kroger, that same basket of groceries, not including the coffee or the oat milk, would have cost me $87.43. So I guess a tip that I would pass along to all of you is that the Walmart, in all likelihood, is going to be cheaper if you are buying sort of shelf stable items, canned goods, really, to build out your emergency pantry. Like I could not believe how much more expensive the Kroger cart was. Now, as I always do, it wasn't part of the rules that I set out for this, but anytime I do a grocery haul, I always want to check in on nutrition. This is one of the things I love about the Thrifty Food Plan from the USDA is it does help us kind of estimate how much money we should be spending in each nutritional category to increase the likelihood that our nutritional needs will be met. And that seemed particularly important for an emergency food haul because if something bad is happening in the world or in my neighborhood or in my city and town, I do want to try to be healthy. So I think nutrition matters a lot in those kind of situations. And what I found was when I did the math, I had a very pretty aligned haul here. Spent about 28% on veg, 24% on fruit. Canned fruit is really expensive. Spent a little over 11% on grains, a little low, but again, I bought pretty cheap grains, and those oats alone are enough grains for a human being. Protein spent about 23%, so pretty in line, just the sheer expense of all of the canned beans as opposed to dry beans, and also just buying in volume. My dairy was a little low because I just bought oat milk to go in my coffee in the mornings, and I bought coconut milk uh, primarily for the lentil curry, but I'll also be able to use some of it in my oats. And then my miscellaneous expenses, I had 2 packets of seasoning, 2 bars of chocolate, and my coffee. So, from a nutritional perspective, based on the guidance from the USDA, I actually should be eating pretty nutritionally during this 2 week period, which is kind of exciting. Now, I did count the tomatoes as a fruit, and I mean as a vegetable, and I think technically they're a fruit. So I'd appreciate any pushes on that because maybe the tomatoes really should be in the fruit category. You tell me. Okay, folks. So this was my emergency food pantry haul using the tips and guidelines that I kind of set out earlier. I built around a meal plan. I only bought stuff that I actually like. I love collard greens. You may not. Don't buy them. I did include fruits and veg in every single day with at least one green thing a day. I made sure I had at least 1,500 calories a day. I did have some variation in the flavor profile I put together. I bought items that will help me minimize cooking time, and I did keep affordability in mind. Plus, when I stopped to look, I actually had a pretty decent nutritional mix based on the USDA Thrifty Plan guidance. So, this is my haul and my emergency food plan should something bad happen here where I live. I'd love to hear from all of you. What would you do differently? What would you do the same? Because I have a lot to learn about how to do this well. And this is my first go. So I'm sure I missed some things or I made some mistakes. Or there, maybe we don't want to use mistake language. I have opportunities for growth in some areas. So please give me your pushes, your thoughts, your feedback, your partnership, so that as I build out this emergency food pantry from 14 days to maybe 28 days over time, that I'm doing it in a way that is really thoughtful and cost effective and nutrient dense and meets all of my hopes in terms of my rules and tips and guiding principles. And maybe I need to add some too. So please add your comments below and do come back next Thursday when we'll have a regular grocery haul and meal plan. Thanks so much for visiting. Hit that like button and subscribe.